I know that Robert Kennedy Jr. is he's a
big one.
He's a big one,
Yeah.
and he seems like a very intelligent guy. How could he not be aware of the science behind this, and what is he getting wrong?
I've only followed what he does with vaccines, but it's all nonsense.
Why is he doing this about vaccines?
I don't know. What's his motive? I mean, you have to ask him. What's his motive?
So, first of all, I wanted to ask you, if you could just please explain how you got into these controversial positions in the first place. How did you adopt these opinions that people find so controversial?
I was, kind of one of the leading environmentalists in the country. So I was also pushing legislation about mercury, lobbying EPA to reduce it, and I was giving lectures all over the place. So these women start showing up at every lecture that I give. And then afterwards, they'd stay late, and they would ask to talk to me. As it turns out, they were all the mothers of intellectually disabled children, and they believed that their children had been injured by the vaccines, by mercury in the vaccines. They would say to me in kind of a respectful but vaguely scolding way, if you're really interested in mercury contamination to exposure to children, you need to look at the vaccines. Now, this is something I didn't want to do because first of all, I'm not a public health person. I wanted to do environmental stuff. Second of all, I've been involved since I was a little kid in the whole area of intellectual disabilities. These women came to my home, and she found my home in Hyannisport at a little bungalow, and her name was Sarah Bridges. She was a psychologist from Minnesota, and she found my home. She came to it. She took out of the trunk of her car a pile of scientific studies that was 18 inches thick. She put it on my front porch, my stoop, and then she rang the bell, and then she pointed to that pile, and she said, I'm not leaving here till you read those. And I sat down while she was there, and I read through the abstracts of these studies one after the other. And before I was 6 inches down in that pile, I recognized that there was this huge delta between what the public health agencies were telling us about vaccine safety and what the actual peer-reviewed published science was saying.
He'd be a guy that you would want to have a debate with or have a discussion with?
But again, I mean, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of a debate because it's like debating. I don't know. It's like debating a Holocaust denier whether the Holocaust exists. I mean,
listen,
no.
Hold on.
You're
but
raising this issue.
I don't want to get in a debate with you.
We've used our editorial judgment and not including extended portions of that exchange in our interview. We thank Mr. Kennedy for the conversation.
But having pat, conclusive statements like you just have to trust the science, especially after there's been so much back and forth around COVID vaccines and what they can and cannot do, it's just going to strike people like you're trying to hide and cover up the truth.
They're at the level of this question has been decided for you, so it's not open for debate.